All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to move on. We're going to still use those same two notes, but we're going to move into the swing groove. And this one's kind of fun, and I strongly encourage you to practice both of these with the backing tracks that we've given you, okay? But this is the swing groove now. Now I can play them right? But I can add if I can. Now, it does get a little fast, but watch this. I'm going to add that heartbeat feel, the bump ba bump ba bump 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 ba bump ba bump. Da 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 da. Just using these two notes. Now it gets a little bit harder, so now you'll see me transition into using downs and ups. Okay, so watch this. Okay, that one's kind of fun to do, okay? Now, I'm going to take that same kind of swing feel, ba-da-bum-bum-bum-bum-ba-da-dum-bum, and all of a sudden, my musical situation that I find myself in has a lot of groove. It's got a lot of opportunity. That can mean a lot of notes, but it doesn't have to, okay? So I want to remind you again that as we keep going, the first thing that it seems like most people want to do is they want to start adding more notes, right? And it's not that. It's not about whether you add more or you play less or something like that. It's okay to add more notes. But if you lose the interaction and the quality of what it is that you're doing, you lose that groove in your quest to try and play more, that's the problem, okay? You just wind up sounding like you're playing scales all the time. So the trick is it's not about more, it's not about less, unless it is for you in the creative space that you find yourself in. It's more about the connection and not losing that connection. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that same idea, only this time I'm going to start playing four notes. So I'm playing the center of the A minor pentatonic scale is what I'm doing right now. So I'm just taking those notes. Now, none of those four notes are paying me any money, right? So I don't have an obligation to play one of the notes more or less or something like that, or play them all equally. I don't think about it that way. Now, there's no doubt that in terms of these four notes, this note is the A. It's the root. It's probably the note I'm going to play more because it fits right over the chord that I would be playing on. Now, right now, I'm not using a chord. I'm just using a drum group. But, I mean, it might wind up being more important than the other ones from that perspective. But just in terms of my grooving, I'm not really worried about playing them all equally or, making one of the notes feel bad. It's perfectly fine, right? So as I start jamming to this, I'm going to use those four notes and just try and think about all the different ways. I can play forward. I can play backward. I can play side to side. I can play like L shapes. Around we can call it round robin, where I'm just going. And you'll notice right now, none of that has anything musical to do with anything. I'm just thinking about shapes in my head, ways of connecting these notes that don't keep me just playing down and up all the time, right? So as I start doing this, I'm thinking about playing maybe one note a lot, or maybe connecting two notes together, and then maybe doing three notes, and then maybe going back to one note. It's not just, I have four notes, so I should play all four notes all the time. I need to learn to avoid that mentality, because then it just, again, two things can happen. Number one, three things really. I can overplay. Number two, everything starts sounding like scales again. Or number three, I'm putting myself into a kind of a false realism, because if the situation I found myself in was a lot faster than 85 beats per minute, like this backing track is, I can't do all the things I'm trying to do anyway. Where if I'm just jamming on a note, I could do that anywhere, right? If I start to, some sort of elaborate system, it might work, but it won't always work because it depends on the tempo of the song and things like that. So again, I'm not making fun of anything. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with development. I do it all the time, learning patterns and sequences and all kinds of different stuff like that. But I also have trained myself to understand that I don't start with those things. Those aren't the only thing that I focus on. I'm trying to make a musical connection. That's what I'm thinking about. Okay, so let's go ahead and start that swing groove again. And let me show you. I'm going to play 4 notes. Right? So again, just trying to relax a little bit. Now I'm trying to avoid various techniques and things on purpose because we're going to get to those, and I don't want to use all that stuff right now when we haven't even really discussed it. But I do want to get you started on these so you can start using these backing tracks with your playing. And again, it might seem a bit elementary to you. It might not. Okay. But if it does, please understand where I'm coming from in terms of learning to make a simple connection. Because if you start trying to do these sorts of things and you can't make this work, all the fancy licks and all that sort of thing on top isn't going to fix this. This is still going to fester on the bottom, right? You can be flamboyant and do all these different things and impress people with it, but at the very heart of your playing, you're still lacking in the basic ability to just make a musical connection. Now, it doesn't have to be fast, right? If you're playing and you're going, nothing wrong with that. Just every once in a while, if you can, up, try and add those in. Sounds really cool. Okay? So that's what I want you to work on right now. It's just developing those ideas using this straight groove and this